Well, today we have Drake University coach Rich Calvert. And Coach, you've been at the helm at Drake for 20 years now. Prior to that, spent a little time at University of Iowa and then with Melinda Fisher at Illinois State. But what I really want to talk about maybe today is your days in the men's fast pitch league and what Rich Calvert was like as a softball player.
Well, I thought I was good. And the older I get, the better I was, because we all have good stories that we embellish a little bit. At least that's what I tell my team, so they think I was good. Yeah, that's where it all started. That's where I fell in love with the game of fast pitch softball was, started when a friend of mine, Mike Ginger, drugged me to one of his games that he played boys fast pitch. It was just kind of a local team, little traveling team. Dads coached it. Dads were all former fast pitch players themselves and got their sons started. And I'm like, this is never seen it, never even heard about it. And, I fell in love with it basically the first time I watched it. And after the game, I go, "You got a spot for another player?" And he goes, "Yeah." And so I kind of changed up my summer plans, but I learned a ton, just from playing the game. Probably a lot of my style in terms of how I try to coach on the field, I learned from Bob Watson, who was the manager at the time from Bloomington Hearts. And he was a very aggressive offensive coach in a sense and putting pressure on the defense. And that kind of fit my style. And I use that today in terms of how we try to at least play the game, at least from an offensive standpoint. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I ended up playing probably total only about 12 years. Had some back injuries that kind of derailed some of it. Plus, I ended up getting married and moving to Ohio.
Yeah, it's. I remember growing up watching men's fast pitch and just loved it, and wish there was a little bit more of it today. But let's get back and talk about your team at Drake, and it's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster ride for your team this season. You've had some highs and some lows, but over the last couple of weeks, starting to see a little bit more consistency. Is that the kind of team that you thought you would have coming into this season?
Well, I hope the consistency would have started much earlier than it's been present the last couple of weeks. Even early in the season, after our first weekend, I was real pleased. We played really well and beat some, I thought, a couple really good teams in Iowa State and South Dakota State. So I was really pleased how we came out of that. And then, we took a weekend off, and, sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And then, we went down to Baton Rouge and Lexington, Kentucky, and Austin, Texas the next 3 weekends and played some really good teams and some really good competition. And the thing was, and we've talked about this here the last couple of weeks, we weren't just one part or two parts of the game was missing. We'd always have one part, but we'd miss the other two parts. So one day we get good pitching, but we didn't play good defense, and we didn't hit very well. Or the next game we hit well, but we didn't get good pitching and we didn't get good defense, or, vice versa.
Well, you've got 3 super seniors, probably the most in the league, I think. But talk about the decision for them to come back and really kind of up the middle for you guys. That's where your experience is in Macy Johnson, Libby Ryan, and Nicole Timmons.
Last year we didn't have any super seniors. I think we're the only team in the league that did not have one. And now we have 3. And, they're a vital part to our team. All 3 of them are, play a very vital role in our team. And, the one thing that Macy Johnson, she's just been real consistent, from start to finish. Her freshman year all the way up now to her 5th year, she's just been real steady and gives us a real nice productive bat at the top of the lineup. Libby struggled a little bit offensively this year. She showed some good moments of back to herself, but there's something there yet that we're still trying to work at. And I think she's starting to turn the corner a little bit. And I've seen really good progress here out of the last couple of weeks. We dropped her out of the leadoff spot and kind of put her in the middle of the order here and changed some things up. And that's kind of when we've really started to click a little bit more offensively. Nicole Timmons has kind of been hit and miss this year. She's brilliant at times, and then other times she has struggled. And if you look at our staff, as a whole, we struggled with throwing away too many balls. We given too many free passes, and that's kind of been our biggest bugaboo that we've had this year. And Nicole's no exception. Will give up her fair number of passes. The one thing that she's able to do is she's able to strike some batters out and get us out of some jams. Nicole's thrown a couple really good games against some really good teams this year. A couple of the games that stood out was the LSU game down in Baton Rouge. We had them beat and just gave up a late run, and they managed to squeak one out. And then Michigan, she had them baffled for a good 7 innings. And we just weren't able to do enough offensively for her in those games. And then I thought she started out at Evansville. She probably threw the best back-to-back games. They ran into a couple of pitches and unfortunately hit it out. And that was the difference in game number 2 at Evansville. And then lately she's just, we got to get her off to a better start. She hasn't had real good starts. And so we're hoping here we got, 4 or 5 weeks left of the season, and hopefully we can get her back to some good form because we're going to need her down the stretch.
You had mentioned Gabbie Jonas earlier, and everybody at Drake and throughout the league saddened by the news of her passing. Just talk a little bit about Gabbie Jonas, the person, not necessarily the player, but the person. You guys are honoring her with a logo out in left field at the field, and then you have a little patch on the helmets, I know, in honor of her. But talk about Gabbie Jonas.
She was probably the unsung hero of those really 2 good teams that we had a couple of years back. She, obviously, Nicole Newman was kind of the headliner, for us. And we had some really good offensive players around her. And Gabbie was kind of just in the shadows, but people didn't realize she was probably our team leader out of everybody. She just had that ability to bring everybody together. She was goofy on the field, off the field, made everybody laugh. She brought something that, especially in the catching position, it was huge, especially to the pitchers. And, she offensively, she didn't hit a whole lot. We stuck her in the 10 spot a lot of times, especially when Nicole Newman was pitching. And, but when we put her in there, she was a gamer, and she always, was ready to play and do what whatever ask. But, I think everybody just kind of really navigated towards her, both on and off the field. And she just had that, she had that deep voice that, you always knew when she was speaking. And she, she was the worst singer in the world, but, it didn't stop her from singing. And so she just always put a smile on everybody's faces. And, I think the mark of what Gabbie meant to the program is when the visitation was held. And I believe every player, with the exception of maybe one player that she played with over her 4 years, was able to make it back for the visitation. And so that just kind of speaks volumes of how much Gabbie meant to everybody.
Yeah, she certainly was a character and will sorely be missed, but left an impact on the Drake program. Well, Rich, your team is starting to hit its stride, and looking forward to seeing how they play down the stretch and heading into Springfield. So thank you for joining us today, Rich, and we will see you down the road.
Thanks, Laura.